So the YieldMax CONY paid out this past week. I want to go through, enter in my purchases and distributions, and just see where I'm at on CONY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to change it up a little bit and we're going to talk about CONY, C-O-N-Y. CONY uses the underlying of Coinbase, C-O-I-N. And currently CONY has a distribution rate of 123.79%. Now I have been in CONY since about November of last year. I haven't really been buying many shares of CONY. I started off buying a few here and there, and then I just basically gave it a break and I was focusing in on MSTY. But I have started looking back into CONY, as CONY is also a Bitcoin play per se, whereas MSTY uses the underlying of MSTR, and MSTR buys Bitcoin, and CONY uses the underlying of Coinbase, which is the one who does all the transactions for all of the cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. So let's just take a quick look at the chart and check out to see where CONY is currently. All right, so here we are on the Webull chart, and I've got CONY pulled up, and right now I'm looking at the actual chart. So this is the actual movement of the price of CONY itself. We're currently sitting at $7.70. Now this one has come down quite a bit over the time, and we will zoom out to see where we're currently at. All right, so I've got the whole entire chart shown here for CONY. And as you can see, it started out around about that $20 mark, and currently we are at $7.70. So there has been some erosion on the price of CONY. It looks like it did hit as high as $30.18 at one point and as low as $6.11 at another point. But currently we are at $7.70 with the last distribution payout of 73 cents. So let's just slide right over to my spreadsheet. Let's plug in all of my purchases and my distributions, and let's just see where I'm at. I think this will be very interesting to see for myself, as I really haven't paid much attention to CONY. All right, so here we are on my spreadsheet. Now, this spreadsheet is available if you do not have a way of tracking a position in your portfolio, and you can get that link down in the pinned comments or in the description. So if you buy me a cup of coffee, that will give you access to this sheet where you too can use it to track your purchases of a stock ticker. And when you get it, it will be a view only. You'll make a copy of that so that you can use it going forward, enter in your information and such. And when you get that download, you will see this first tab here where it does tell you how to make your copy so that you can use it. But once you slide over back to the actual sheet, you'll see a sheet here and it'll be blank just like this. Now what I've done, and I think it's a good thing to do, is I keep a blank copy here, and I've actually renamed it down here in the tab area. As you can see at the bottom, I've renamed it to B-L-A-N-K, blank. So that way I can keep a blank copy at all times. And I do not have to then necessarily go through, delete the columns, delete the information out of it to change the ticker symbol to track a different stock. So by keeping a blank, it's easy to just go in here and just make a duplicate of that tab. But as you can see here, this is what it'll look like when you've entered in your information. This is my stock tracker sheet for MSTY, M-S-T-Y. And as you can see, I've got all my buy prices and shares, my distributions, and any premium that I have made over the time to help calculate my new adjusted price per share. And that's my real average price per share. By keeping a blank copy, you can then just easily make a duplicate for a different position you want to track. And it's just simple as just hover over that tab, right click, and then you can go up here and hit duplicate. And when you hit duplicate, that's exactly what it will do. It will make a duplicate of it, and it will rename it. As you can see here, now it says copy of that blank sheet, right? So now I can go back in here to this new tab, keep my blank one over here, but go into the one that I just created here, and I can change this blank, and I can rename it to CONY. And then I can also remove off copy of, because I don't necessarily want to name it copy of that. And it only does that because it cannot have the same name as the other one. So now I have renamed this one CONY, and I just simply started off by entering in the ticker symbol CONY. And when I enter that, it will kick out that current price. Now this is the weekend, so the market is not open. So this is the closing price of the last trading day, which was Friday. And it closed at $7.70, and that's why you see it at $7.70. It will not give you the pre-market. It will not give you the aftermarket. It does not give you nighttime pricing. This is only during trading hours. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start right off. And my first purchase on CONY was on November the 14th of 2024. I had a buy price of $15.11 is what I paid for it when I first got in. So yeah, a little higher definitely than what it is now, right? And I purchased a total of 53 shares at that time. And once I hit enter, it will calculate the capital that I spent. And as you can see, I spent $800.83. Now, if we look on the CONY website, we can see what the X date was for that time to see, did I get a distribution or not? Well, if I bought them on November the 14th, and if I go over to the CONY site here, and I scroll right on down here to the distributions details, as you can see right here, this one that I've tried to highlight here, as you can see, the X date up here is 11/14. That means I had to have owned those shares before that date. If I purchased them on or after, I will not receive that $2.02 for that distribution that would be paid out on the 15th. You must own them before the X date, and the X date is November the 14th. So going back to my sheet here, November the 14th is when I purchased them, so I bought them on the X date. So therefore, I do not get that distribution. So no distribution for that one here at that date, but those shares will allow me to earn that distribution for the next payout. So my next buy point was on December the 12th of 2024. My buy price of $15.81, and I bought 16 shares. Okay, so now I made another purchase here, and I've spent a total of $252.96. As you can see, my total capital is increasing. It's these two numbers added together. It populates into this cell, so I've spent a total of $1,053.79 for a purchased average per share price of $15.27. That is the average of these purchases here. And this will change as I enter in more purchases. The distributions I've earned, of course, is 0 because I have not earned a distribution yet because I have not entered it. So now we're on December the 12th. And let's see if I earn a distribution for those shares. Well, as you can see here, the X date here, December 12th. So again, I did purchase those shares on the X date. So therefore, I will not earn a distribution for those 16 shares. But I will earn the distribution for those 53 shares because any amount of shares that you own before the X date, and that's the catch, before the X date, then those shares will be eligible for any distribution payout at that time. So to help speed this along a little, I'm going to plug in all of the distribution dates here, and these will be the X dates, so that it will be easy for us to look over here and see, does it qualify for that distribution or not? So I'm going to do a little magic and make them appear right now, just like magic. Okay, so I'm also going to do that with those distributions per share amounts that were paid out for those dates. And then we'll just be able to enter in the number of shares that I have for each of those distribution dates as we enter in the share purchase prices. And there we go. So I've entered in all the dates and the distributions per share that was announced from YieldMax on the CONY site. And then all we have to do is plug in our number of shares that are eligible for that date. So since we purchased those here on 12/12, that means that those shares would not be eligible. Therefore, we would only have 53 shares for this first distribution. So I'll enter in 53 shares, and that means we earned $70.97 on that amount of shares that we had eligible for that date. So let's go ahead and plug in my next purchase price, and that was on 1/8 of 2025. I bought the shares at $12.45, and I purchased another 16 shares. So that's $199.20. So as you can see, that capital is rising up. And let's just see about the distributions now. I have a distribution date of 1/8, and since this is at or greater than, then this number of shares does not count toward that distribution. Therefore, only these previous purchases accounts. So that's a total right here of 69 shares. So I can enter in 69 shares into this column here, and that will give me a distribution amount of $57.54. Okay, so after this one, I actually sold a put on CONY, and I sold a put on 2/7 of 2025 to expire on that February the 21st of 2025, and I sold a $12 put, and I sold one of those, and I earned a total of 40 cents, and each contract is worth 100 shares, so times 100. And then how many contracts? Well, just the one contract. Now, I did have to pay a fee, and I only had to pay 8 cents. So I can take that and subtract off my 8 cents, and that gives me a total of $39.92 that I earned in that premium. And that was to expire on February the 21st. Well, on February 21st, the price was under $12. So I allowed it to get assigned. So that put me an amount of shares to purchase on 2/21 of 2025. And that means that I had to buy those shares at $12. And that means that that would be 100 shares. So I had to purchase 100 shares at $12. So $1,200 was spent. Capital, again, is accounting and adding as I enter those stock purchases. But also on that same day, on 2/21, I also purchased a few shares on that same day as well. And the price was $11.49, and I purchased 15 shares. So as you can see, that's why I did get assigned those shares at 12, because I was able to actually buy at $11.49. So the close of that day was under $12. And you can look back on the charts if you would like, where you can see what the actual close was on February the 21st. And you'll see that it was under 12. Therefore, I was obligated to purchase 100 shares at $12. So now let's slide over to the distribution here. And as we can see on that February, we did have a distribution on 2/6. So anything before that date, I can count toward the distribution per share received. So anything before 2/6, well, these both were on 2/21. So I can count those three there, which is 85 shares. So I can enter in my 85 shares here. And there we are. We have a total earned in distribution of $217.49 so far. Now, moving forward, the next purchase that I made was on 5/30 of 2025. So I went a few months before actually making another purchase. And I purchased those at $7.71, and I bought 15 shares. Now, that's the one that I had actually announced in a previous video, and that was $115.65 in capital. Now we can go into our distributions over here, and we can account for all the ones that were before that time. So in March, I didn't make any other buys, so I can account for anything before the 3/6, and that's all of them except my newest purchase. So I can highlight all of these, and that's a total of 200 shares. So I just enter my 200 shares here, and 4/3, it's the same thing, right? Because I made a purchase on 5/30. So those amount of shares before 4/3 is again 200 shares. So I've made 119 in March and 87 in April. And then in May the 1st, again, it's the same number, isn't it? 200 shares, because the ones on 5/30 has not happened yet. So again, we'll just enter in the 200 shares. Now this one here is the distribution date is 5/29, but I made the purchase on 5/30, so I cannot count those again for this one. So as you can guess, this one will also be 200 shares. So there we go. So now looking at it, next payout, I will be able to account for those 15 shares. So the next distribution, instead of 200 shares, I will be able to account for 215 shares, because the 5/30 purchase will be added to that. And if I make any other purchase before that X date, then I can count those as well. So now let's just see where I'm at after I've entered in all of my purchases, all of my distributions, and the premium that I did sell. Now this premium here, this one did get assigned, and I can even add a note here just so that I know, right? So I can say just assign, just so that I know that one there was indeed assigned. And then I like to go in here, especially if it's closed out, and in this case it has been closed out, and I just simply go here, I go to my text, and I do a little strike through this part just to show that it is closed. And a lot of times I will also change it to red just so that I can see that it is closed. Now if you'd prefer to have your open ones red and your closed ones black, that's fine, however you want to do it. Now I keep the money here unstriked because that is money that I did receive, and that money is accounted over here in the premium earned. So currently I have 215 shares, my purchase share average, and this is the price that I paid for all of my shares, including the one that I was assigned, the 100 shares that I was assigned. That purchase share average is $12.75. Therefore, I have a capital invested of $2,740.99. The distributions that I have earned as of date is $702.11. I did sell one put on CONY that earned me $39.92. Therefore, my capital that is still at risk is $1,998.96, which then gives me a new adjusted price per share of $9.30, not the $12.75 per share. So that makes a big difference. Now it's only a couple dollars under the current price instead of close to $5 under the price. So that makes a big difference. So the percentage that I have earned back so far is 27%. And again, I really have not been focused much on CONY, but with the price as low as it is under even my adjusted price per share, And anytime you can buy under your adjusted price per share, if you're looking to acquire more shares, that's a good price to buy, because that way it's going to lower your adjusted price per share along with the actual purchased price per share, because that price is below both of them. And that gets you even a better position, as that will also lower your adjusted price per share on those purchases. Now this one here saying $1,655.50, that is the actual value of the stock currently. So the 215 shares that I do own times the current price, and this is the market open price, right? And if it's after hours, it is the close of that day's price. So those two multiplied together gives you the $1,655.50. So that is the market value of your current position, in my case of CONY. Now, if I was to sell my shares at the current price and say I just want out of CONY altogether, and I sold all 215 shares at the current price of $7.70, then that is what this number here tells me. That means that, taking into account of my distributions and my premium that I have earned, that subtracted out of my capital along with the value of the stock itself, means I will take a loss of $343.46, or 12.5% loss on CONY currently. And again, I have not paid much attention to CONY. I have just been focused on MSTY. So that's why I'm doing this sheet, so that I too can understand where I am at on CONY, so that I can also start working to get CONY to a point where if I was to sell it, I can actually turn it for a profit. And right now, I've invested more than I've made, plus what I could sell the shares for. It would be a minus $343. So as you can see, even with the NAV erosion of CONY, because as we saw on the chart, you did see where it was at 20 and now we're at $7, right? So it has eroded away a bit, but even with that, I'm only down 12%, well, 12.5%, not what I could be if I was not receiving those distributions, because then I would be at a price of $12.75, and it would be a $7.70 price, and I would be at that total loss on the position. But because I do earn distributions, that does help to offset it. And if I was paying more attention to CONY, I could have been buying a few other times here, especially being so low and below my average price per share. I could have brought my risk per share down a bit. But anyway, if you're interested in using a sheet like this, you're more than welcome to grab your copy of it with the link in the pinned comments or in the description, where you can buy me a coffee and get a copy of this sheet to fill out for your own position of whichever stock that you want to track. But if you do have your own sheet, or you do have your method of tracking, then by all means use that for sure. But whatever you do, you need to make sure that you are tracking and calculating what that adjusted price per share is, because that is the real price per share. That is what you're really at risk at. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, it'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.